Mr. Benson, I want to start with you, and then we'll go back around and talk a little bit about you talked extensively about the bridge, and there are two bridge funding programs. I think you said you have 41 major bridges in Cass County, 100, maybe smaller ones. And as I recall, North Dakota statewide, it's like, hundreds, many hundreds of bridges, obviously. Maybe if you could just elaborate a little bit on not just your experience, but maybe advising others how to take advantage of that program, and then advise us on how we, if we can, how we would tweak it, simplify it, or for that matter, how the DOT might simplify it or allow more maximization of the bridge program. Because one thing that we have heard, as tough as our roads are, our bridges create really a very significant challenge and safety risk. So if you just elaborate a little bit on the bridge program.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you, Senator Cramer. So in Cass County and the counties that border Minnesota in North Dakota have about half of the county bridges in the state because of the winding, meandering rivers that flow to the Red River to the north. And because of that, yeah, so I've got 450 or 550 bridges, of which about half are on the federal system of 20 feet or greater. And that's similar to other neighboring counties. And so it's a massive infrastructure demand that many of those bridges were put in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. And again, for the old tandem grain truck or single axle grain truck, not the semi truck and large equipment that they need to carry today. So to be able to use this program to bundle bridges, and I think it really takes it upon counties to look differently. A lot of them are used to looking at okay, we've got a couple bad bridges, how can we get them done? Well, 2 years from now we can save up, we'll apply for some federal funding, we might have some local money to match, and we can knock out this bridge or maybe one or two bridges. But we got to look bigger now to look out and having a 5-year, 10-year plan on how we can bundle these into one project to submit through the BIP program, and then if we can get that more of a bridge bundle to complete 6, 8, 10 bridges in a county, or maybe it's marrying that project up with your sister county, and locally there might be 3 or 4 bridges that is in the same part of your county that you could lump those together and have one large project, and again knock out, But even for North Dakota to be able to do $5 or $10 million, that's a lot of bridges that can be completed.
Let's just go this way and give you guys a break. Wyoming's probably similar.
Yeah, thank you, Senator. I think what is valuable to realize is kind of that connectivity issue that I talked about. If you can't get to the next road, what do you do? And you can travel on a poor road, you can travel on a bad gravel road, but if that bridge has failed, you're not going to get there. And the focus on bridges in this bill is really valuable. WYDOT in Wyoming is passing through 35% instead of the statutory minimum 15%, so we can do a lot more of those bridges to increase that connectivity. I mean, we have old rail cars that are bridges. We got an old rail car, you process small trainage, and it works to a certain point. But as you point out, the vehicles that we travel and the volume is different. But I think the focus on bridges is really positive. In our state, they're passing through more so we can do more to cities, towns, and counties. But I do think that we will continue to need to focus on bridges, whether they are rural or municipal, because I think those are our biggest threat to our infrastructure is the bridges and making sure we keep that connectivity to get from point A to B.
Mr. Carroll, before you answer that question, what the heck happened to the Eagles last night? That was one of the craziest. But you got that one loss, now you can move forward.
Yeah, no comment. Yeah, hopefully it's just that, right? It's just that. I could take one
bridges.
I could take one loss.
One loss will do.
Thank you for that.
You were coming to Washington, so you wanted to make
hospital. There you go.
I would have a much bigger smile if things went
This is why he's a politician.
That's great. I appreciate that. I'll say, just as you've heard from my colleagues, in a municipal environment, losing a bridge isolates the community. And, that's profound. People who rely on walking and biking in particular, if that bridge, which they've walked across for their whole lives, is out, and some of them are out, that really has a huge impact on their quality of life, their life opportunities. And so we want to prioritize those projects, but we need the resources to do that. And the bridge projects can be very complicated in an urban environment. So I mentioned the program we're trying to kick off around bridges over electrified lines. Those are very complex because we need to coordinate the removal, the replacement of this infrastructure that we don't own before we can get to the infrastructure we do own to make fixes. And that could add years to project timelines. And so everything we can do to keep the focus on these bridges is going to help us a ton. You know, we need to ramp up to that, though. And so it's good to have some planning funds, some capacity building worked into the infrastructure law. And it may take us a little bit of time to get to actual fixes, but if we take that perspective, this is more of a marathon, I think we're going to be very happy across the country with the end results.
Well said. Mr. Mayor, we're going to stall for Chairman Carper to gather his thoughts.
Happy to. So, Senator, there's just two. I'll share two things, and both sort of positive tales. One, we really appreciate the funding that has been received in our community to address the rebuild of our Mill Street and Naylor Mill Road bridges. But there's a second tale, and this is of U.S. Route 13 business right in the center of our city, which has been going through a multi-year design process and some construction to replace a 1929 bridge. And there's the cautionary tale here is around flexibility. So the original design of this project, of this bridge replacement, which included federal, state, and local dollars, was oriented on incorporating the Maryland State Highway Administration's standard for bike lanes. And this standard would have put bike lanes on a 35,000 car a day road, open to and adjacent to traffic, rather than recognizing that there was a parallel planning process ongoing at the local level for an urban greenway that would be adjacent and could, if collaboratively designed, prioritize safety as we wanted to, prioritize, and a principle that Maryland State Highway Administration has, and prioritize the throughput necessary on a 35,000 person a car day, which I use every single day, which matters to all of us. And so when you look at those two processes in parallel, you'd see an obvious solution. Well, just put it up on a curb and have the multi-user path right there, and everybody's happy. But that's not the way things happen. They happen in a silo, and the state DOT is working on its plans, and at the local level, we're working on ours. And so the solution has been we're working together now. But it took somebody recognizing and arguing for why can't we collaboratively work on these processes, which again bring local vision, local priorities, local values into a process, and trust us with those things. And so ultimately things have worked out, but I do think we could have saved money and we could have saved time if that had been the standard way of doing business.